Welcome, curious minds, to another Dump Dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're tackling a truly massive work. We're stepping into this grand spiritual drama, a real titan of the Renaissance. Titian's huge masterpiece, Assumption of the Virgin.
It really is a giant, both physically and in art history.
Absolutely. And we've pulled together a serious stack of sources, historical accounts, deep art historical takes, theological readings, all picked to get to a really solid grasp of this incredible painting and, well, where it fits in history.
There's a lot to cover.
Right. So our mission today is to sift through all this material, pull out the really key insights, the stuff that maybe surprises you. And because it's such a visual thing, we'll try our best to guide you through it, make you feel its presence, its techniques, its layers of meaning, even if you can't, stand right in front of it.
It's a challenge, but we'll give it our best shot. The sheer scale is hard to convey in words alone.
It really is. So whether you're deep into art history already or just fascinated by genius and how these amazing works come about, get ready. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
So when we talk about Titian's Assumption, it's important to stress, this thing dominates. Even today, you walk into the Frari Church in Venice, and it just commands the space. It's almost overwhelming.
It really is. You have to crane your neck.
Totally. Titian painted it between 1516 and 1518. He was, well, pretty much the top dog in Venetian painting by then.
Yeah, definitely the leading figure.
And this wasn't just any commission. This was the main altarpiece for Santa Maria Gloriosa dei Frari. Huge deal. Big visibility.
Absolutely central to the church's visual and spiritual program.
And the size, you mentioned the scale, it's roughly 690 centimeters high, 360 wide. That's like, what, 23 feet tall, 12 feet wide?
Something like that, yeah. Think a two-story building high. It's massive. You stand there and you feel tiny.
Exactly. You're just dwarfed. And art historians, they pretty much universally call it one of the absolute greats of the Italian Renaissance, a game changer.
No question. It's often cited as like the peak moment for the Venetian school's whole approach to color and light.
Okay, so what makes it a pinnacle? Not just the size.
No, not just size. It's how Titian managed, maybe for the first time on this kind of monumental scale, to make light and atmosphere feel almost tangible, real.
You mean not just painting light, but painting with light.
Exactly. It's a shift.
Yeah.
Florence was maybe more about lines, drawing, structure, disegno. Venice and Titian, especially here, it's about how colors blend, how light seems to emanate from the painting.
So less sharp outlines, more atmosphere.
Precisely. Figures emerge from this swirl of color and shadow. It gives the whole thing this incredibly vibrant, almost moving quality. Centuries before cinema, but it feels cinematic. It's an experience.
Wow.
And what's really fascinating here is Titian didn't just paint the story of Mary's Assumption. Her being taken up to heaven, body and soul. That's a core Catholic belief, obviously.
Right, a standard theme for centuries.
Standard theme, yeah, important since the Middle Ages. But the Renaissance changed how artists approached these old stories. There was this new focus on humanism, getting the anatomy right, showing real movement and emotion.
Giving artists new tools, basically.
Totally new tools.
Yeah.
And Titian runs with it. He injects this scene with incredible energy, drama, movement, and that signature rich, glowing color. He didn't just illustrate. He created this intense spiritual drama.
So merging the theology with pure visual power.
Absolutely. Which means for you listening, it's not just some old painting to tick off a list. It's like a visual sermon, yeah, but also a stage play unfolding and a technical marvel, all in one.
Still grabs you centuries later.
It really does. Speaks volumes about how art can carry belief, stir devotion, hit you right in the human core.
To really get why it hits so hard, we need to zoom out, right? Think about 16th century Italy. Venice. What was that world like?
Right, context is everything. Italy back then, it was buzzing. The Renaissance was in full swing, huge changes in art, science, philosophy. But it wasn't Italy like we know it.
No single country.
Exactly. It was this patchwork of independent city-states. Florence, Milan, Rome, Venice. All powerful, all rivals, each with its own culture, its own ambitions, constantly competing.
And Venice was a major player in that.
Oh, huge. Venice was an economic giant. Its power came from trade, from its incredible maritime strength, controlled key routes east.
So money, lots of it.
Tons of money. Spices, silks, dyes, luxury goods flowing through. And that wealth didn't just sit there. It fueled this incredible cultural boom. Venice became a magnet for artists.
Especially artists interested in color and light.
Exactly. The unique Venetian light, the water, the atmosphere.
Right.
It fostered this distinct approach. The Venetian school. Think Bellini, Giorgione, and then Titian takes the reins.
And the money paid for the art. Commissions from the church, wealthy families.
Precisely. Churches like the Frari, rich nobles building palaces, they poured money into art. It was symbiotic. Wealth funded art, and the art glorified the city, its leaders, its faith.
Got it. So a rich, competitive, art-loving city.
In a nutshell, yeah. But there's another layer to this context, especially for this painting.
Which is?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this painting wasn't just beautiful decoration. It was strategic. It was communication, designed to shout Catholic belief from the rooftops during a really tough time.
You mean the Reformation?
Exactly. The early 16th century is when the Protestant Reformation kicks off. Luther's challenging the church, questioning doctrines, practices. It's a massive upheaval across Europe.
So the Catholic Church felt under pressure?
Immense pressure. And in that climate, art becomes a weapon, almost.
Yeah.
A powerful tool for teaching, for inspiring loyalty, for pushing back against criticism. They needed strong, clear, visual messages.
And the Assumption delivers that message.
Absolutely. Whole idea of Mary being assumed into heaven, body and soul, her sinlessness. These were specific aspects of Marian devotion that some reformers questioned as maybe going beyond the Bible.
So Titian's painting is like a visual counter-argument, a defense.
A stunning visual defense. It screams, look at Mary's glory. This is our belief. It offered hope, showed divine reward, confirmed her special status.
So for people in the Ferrari Church, seeing this wasn't just aesthetic.
Not at all. It was a powerful affirmation of their faith when that faith was being attacked. It was theology made visible, made compelling. Art as assertion.
That context really does add weight.
Yeah.
Okay, so knowing all that, let's dive into the painting itself. You mentioned its structure. It's kind of famous for its composition, right?
Yeah, it's brilliant. He uses this classical three-part structure. It's hierarchical. It literally guides your eye upward from earth to heaven.
Like a visual journey.
Exactly. A spiritual climb built right into the design.
Okay, so let's start at the bottom. The earthly realm, you called it.
Down there, you've got the apostles. They're gathered around Mary's empty tomb, and this is where the raw human drama hits you.
Their faces, their poses.
It's all about the emotion. You see shock, awe, reverence, maybe some confusion too, as they realize she's gone. But then they look up.
Right, they're all looking up or reaching.
Reaching, pointing, some seem lost in thought, others praying like mad. And they're not generic figures. They feel like real individuals grappling with this miracle. There's one guy, maybe Peter, his back to us, twisting upwards, arm raised.
Connecting our world to the miracle above.
Exactly. Their very human reactions ground the event. It makes you, the viewer, feel like you're right there with them, sharing that astonishment.
Yeah, you really feel their emotion. It pulls you in.
That grounding is key. It sets the stage perfectly for the main event in the middle section.
The transcendent middle, where Mary is.
Right. Mary is the absolute focus. She's rising, powerful pose, almost like she's dancing upwards on these clouds, surrounded by little angels,
Pulled towards heaven.
Pulled, or maybe propelled. And the light, she's bathed in this incredible radiant light that seems to come from above, from the divine realm. It's not just sunlight.
And her clothes, the red and blue robes.
They're not static. They twist and flow, adding to that feeling of upward motion, giving her form, volume, but also a sense of lightness. It's that perfect Renaissance blend, idealized human form, but totally sacred.
And her eyes are looking up.
Looking up, yeah. Leading our eyes upward, too. Following her trajectory.
To the very top, the divine apex.
Exactly. And there you have God the Father. Majestic, arms open wide, welcoming her. Surrounded by more angels, enveloped in this blinding golden light. It's like the gates of heaven opening.
More symbolic up there.
A bit more symbolic, yeah. Representing that pure spiritual realm. So you have these three zones, earth, Mary's journey, heaven layering the story, pulling you upward.
Creating this feeling of rising.
Ascension. An intense feeling of rising sacredness, yeah.
Yeah.
From human reaction to divine welcome. It's a visual crescendo. Which brings us back to that question.
How does he make a flat painting feel so dynamic, so uplifting, like it's actually moving?
Right. How does he pull that off? It's not just the composition. It's how he uses the paint itself, his technique.
Okay, so let's get into the how. His technical mastery. What was he doing differently?
Well, first off, he's using oil paint. That was the go-to medium in Venice, and Titian was a master.
And oil paint gave him more flexibility than older stuff like tempera.
Way more flexibility.
Yeah.
It dries slowly, so he could blend colors right on the canvas, create those soft, smoky transitions sfumato, like Leonardo used. But Titian does his own Venetian version, and he could build up layers.
Layers. You mean painting over paint?
Yeah, thin, transparent layers called glazes. Sometimes dozens of them. This allows light to go through the top layers, bounce off the lower ones, and come back out.
Ah, so that's the inner glow you were talking about?
That's the inner glow. It's not just light on the surface, it's light coming from within the paint. It gives the figures, especially Mary, this luminous, ethereal quality. Makes the divine look radiant.
Wow, okay. So the layering is key for the light. What about this sense of movement?
That comes partly from his brushwork. Unlike some earlier Renaissance guys who wanted a super smooth, polished finish where you couldn't see the brush marks.
Titian lets you see them.
Yeah, in places, especially in the swirling robes, the clouds, the sky. You can almost track his hand moving. He uses these energetic, sometimes quite free strokes.
Which makes it feel less static.
Exactly. It adds life, energy, dynamism. It makes the whole scene feel alive, echoing Mary's movement. It helps create that perception of sacredness and motion.
And then there's the color itself, that famous Venetian color.
Oh, yeah. His palette is signature Titian. Those incredibly rich reds, think deep crimson or scarlet, paired with stunning blues, often ultramarine made from pricey lapis lazuli.
Signifying divinity, right?
Right. And brilliant whites, contrasting with these warm, incredibly lifelike skin tones. The contrasts are strong.
And that helps define the shapes.
Defines the shapes, makes them feel solid, three-dimensional, pops them out. And it creates depth, pulling your eye into the space. So, yeah, we connect this to the bigger picture. He wasn't just depicting something. He was using the physical stuff of paint, the layers, the strokes, the colors to create an experience.
An emotional and spiritual experience through technique.
Precisely. The paint itself becomes the vehicle for the divine feeling.
It's clear he was more than just a technical genius, though. There's a whole philosophy behind this, isn't there? You can see that Renaissance humanism bubbling up.
Absolutely. Look at the figures again. They're idealized, sure, they fit that classical beauty standard, but they're also startlingly realistic. That balance is pure Renaissance human-centric thinking.
A move away from purely symbolic figures.
Big time. Think about Mary even as she's ascending. Her body has real weight, believable anatomy, her movement feels natural, graceful. It's sacred, yes, but rooted in a recognizable human form.
Making the miracle feel more real, relatable.
Exactly. And the apostles below. We talked about their emotions. They're not just a crowd, they're individuals. Each face shows nuanced feelings, spiritual struggle, human complexity. Titian is exploring human nature even within this divine event.
Okay, let's unpack this. It's not just gods and saints up there. It's about connecting the divine to us through our own experiences, emotions, even our physicality.
You got it. It bridges heaven and earth by making the spiritual accessible through the human. You connect through empathy.
And this connects to that idea of Venetian art being different from, say, Florentine art.
It really does. That's the whole disegno versus color thing we touched on.
Yeah.
It's a fundamental difference in approach.
Remind us again what disegno is.
Disegno is about the design, the drawing, the underlying structure. Think Michelangelo, Botticelli, strong lines, clear forms, almost sculptural. It was often seen as more intellectual, the foundation.
And color is the Venetian way.
Right. Color isn't just color in the sense of hue. It's a philosophy where color, applied freely with visible brushwork, creates the form, conveys the mood, builds the atmosphere. It's less about filling in outlines.
So Titian is basically sculpting with color and light.
That's a great way to put it. Forms emerge from the relationships between colors, from light and shadow, not just from lines. Venice's unique light, the water, that whole sensory environment probably influenced this.
And the assumption is like exhibit A for color.
Absolutely. It creates this soft, glowing, but incredibly powerful atmosphere. It blends the sacred and the human seamlessly because the feeling comes through the color, the warmth, the light.
So what's fascinating here is Titian makes you feel the moment through the paint itself. It's sensory.
Totally. More visceral than just intellectual appreciation of line. It hits you differently.
Yeah.
That's the Venetian magic, and Titian is the master magician.
And that mastery makes him such a key figure, right? This painting isn't just a product of its time. It's like a bridge.
A crucial bridge, yeah.
Huh.
It perfectly captures where Venetian art was moving from early to high Renaissance, but also points forward. It solidifies the high Renaissance style in Venice, but hints at the next big thing.
And Titian himself, he becomes the guy after Giorgione dies young.
He does. Giorgione started pushing boundaries with mood and color, but Titian takes it, runs with it, adds this incredible emotional power and technical brilliance. He really elevates the whole Venetian school, making it a serious rival to Florence and Rome.
So the assumption is him planting his flag, basically.
In a big way.
Oh.
And it's not just a flag for his time, it's a signpost for the future. Like you said, it points forward.
How so? It feels very Renaissance, but you're saying it anticipates.
It anticipates the Baroque, absolutely.
Mm.
While it still has that Renaissance balance and order underneath, look at the drama, the intense emotion, the swirling movement, that dramatic use of light.
That's Baroque stuff.
Those are key ingredients of Baroque art, which really takes off a few decades later. The energy, the theatricality, the direct emotional punch, the dynamism, it's all seated right here.
So painters who came later looked back at this.
Oh, absolutely. Think of someone like Rubens, a giant of the Baroque. He was obsessed with Titian, copied his works constantly. He absorbed Titian's color, light, and energy, and then amplified it.
Wow, so Titian's influence just kept going.
For centuries. Tintoretto Veronese in Venice built on him too. It shows his genius wasn't just for the 1510s. It sparked new directions, shaped Western art. That ability to blend classical structure with such intense feeling and movement was groundbreaking.
And it all comes back, ultimately, to its job as a religious statement.
Right, its core message. The Assumption Doctrine, Mary's reward, her sinlessness, her special place. Especially important, as we said, with the Reformation challenging Catholic beliefs about Mary.
And Titian uses all those visual tricks, the composition, the light, the emotion, to hammer that message home.
Every tool in the box.
Yeah.
The contrast between the frantic apostles below and the serene welcome above really emphasizes the miracle. The empty tomb says, she's not here. The apostles' faces say, wow. Mary's ascent says, divine power. God says, welcome. It's a visual narrative.
A sermon in paint. Clear, moving, designed to boost faith.
Exactly. Which is why calling it just art feels wrong. It was a teaching tool.
Right, installed right there on the main altar in this huge church.
Imagine being there during Mass, the ritual's happening, and this massive glowing image is the backdrop. It wasn't meant to be seen in a quiet museum gallery. It was part of the religious experience.
Making people feel Mary's glory, her holiness, viscerally.
Viscerally, overwhelmingly. Drawing them into the story, deepening their faith through this shared visual, spiritual moment. Which does raise that question, how does paint on canvas do that? Become more than just an image?
And Titian's answer seems to be, make the divine relatable, hit the emotions hard, and make it visually stunning.
Make it undeniable. So the message isn't just heard or read, it's felt deep down. That's the power he harnessed.
So wrapping this up, it's pretty undeniable. Titian's Assumption is just a landmark, a peak moment for him, for Venice, for the Renaissance.
Absolutely. It shows his skill, the whole Venetian color and light philosophy firing on all cylinders. Mature, revolutionary.
And it pulls everything together, doesn't it? Technique, composition, theology, humanism. It's all balanced perfectly.
An incredible synthesis. That's why historians rank it not just as a Renaissance great, but as one of the most important paintings in European art, period.
A high point for religious art in that era, and casting a long shadow, influencing the Baroque and beyond. Titian's way with color, with figures making them both human and divine, just set him apart.
And the Assumption is the proof. Still powerful, still speaking to us.
So what does this all mean for you listening? Well, maybe think about how one painting made for a specific time and purpose hundreds of years ago can still feel so innovative, so powerful today. It breaks free of its original job description almost.
It really does resonate beyond its original intent.
Yeah. And maybe next time you see a big altarpiece in a book, or hopefully in person, look for those layers we talked about, the earth, the journey, the divine. Look for that play of light, that human emotion, that energy.
See if you can spot Titian's influence, perhaps.
Right. And remember how Titian used color, used paint itself to tell a huge story and stir the soul? He showed us paint can be a window, a mirror, something much more than just pigment. Keep looking, keep exploring.